What's up, guys? Percocet Productions, and today we're going to be ranking all of the Assassin's Creed protagonists.
So we're going to be going through from Assassin's Creed 1 all the way up to the newest one, Valhalla.
Today, yes, and I'm Jason.
And I'm Ethan.
All right, so we have a number of 12,
11.
11? 11. Okay, number 11 for me is Cassandra, or Alexios, or whatever you want to call him, Eagle Bearer, the main character from Odyssey. I do like the aspect of bringing back, like, the brother and sister dynamic. I think that's a good one that you could do for Assassin's Creed, like, that they did with Jacob and Evie. But honestly, like, this just felt really bad, and I think the main reason why the characters never got an identity is you basically decided what they said for a lot of the game, and they never really had a character identity beyond the RPG, whatever you put into them. So it's really hard to rank the RPG characters and the characters that are story based, because it's two totally different ways of making a character, like
Right.
completely different.
And I agree with that because I did the same thing, put him at number 11. I feel like it wasn't fleshed out enough, Like it's not about, picking male or female. It's just the fact that the character was just very bland. I think once Assassin's Creed started going into the RPG elements, we've really lost like the depth that we used to have.
Yeah.
Like all the characters used to have a lot of depth and they used to have like this story to tell. And some of the missions would be you going back and unlocking some of that story. You would play flashbacks from other times. Well,
Right.
I mean, I don't know. I just kind of feel like it took out a decent chunk of the, I guess I'd say history of the characters when they started making them into your own
Completely
aspect.
agree. So, top 10, look at that. We're already in the top 10. For me, I have at number 10, I have Jacob Fry. So, Assassin's Creed Syndicate, not really a fun game that we mentioned before. Some people loved it, apparently, being in London, but not for us. And Jacob is the less interesting of the twins. He's a hothead. He's not really as fun as people might think he is. He hunts and goes against the Templars. And he is honestly one of the more, I would say, feisty main characters. There's not a lot of Assassin's Creed main characters that are so revenge driven and so like aggressive with their approach, and that's kind of cool. But honestly, he was pretty bland too.
That's gonna take us to my number 10, which I said Ivor
Right.
from the newest Valhalla. Mainly it's just that I haven't invested enough time into the game to really give him a fair rating with everybody. I haven't given him enough of a fair shot with like play time to rank him, but it's also like I already know from what I've played, I'm not much of a huge fan. Like there's nothing really impactful, and honestly, it's rough to go from these characters that we have such a great build with, and then they're more worried about like the worlds and stuff now and like all that, and it almost seems like the main characters are getting forgotten. So that's
Right.
why I put him so low.
So, yeah, actually completely agree. I put them one step higher. Ivor at number 9 for me. I like the idea of an Assassin's Creed game, and I like, Norway, that's cool. Norse mythology game based character. Fun. But honestly, following this character in this game, it really lacked depth. It completely lacked depth. Like you mentioned, the character, you can control either one, and honestly, like being able to decide their gender, that's cool and all, but I don't think it's like that needed. Like I don't think it really does anything. And they're basically just a bland Viking, like there's not really much there beyond the surface, and that's why I don't really care much about this character.
Well, that'll take us to my number 9. I actually have ours flipped. I said Jacob Fry at number 9.
Yeah.
For all the reasons you said. I mean, I already didn't like Syndicate. I mean, I played pretty much the whole game, and I had to struggle through it. I mean, I didn't like Jacob at all. I wasn't much of a fan. It was cool, the aspect of the twins. I mean, that was pretty neat.
Right.
We hadn't seen that before up to that point, but yeah, he just wasn't really good to me. I mean, I feel like he was like the worst of the two siblings and just wasn't really worth playing it.
Yeah.
Just really felt like a waste of time more than
Yeah.
anything.
I completely agree on that assessment. Well, my number 8, I got Evie. I got Evie, the twin, the other side of the twin. I think she's more charismatic. I think she's got more charisma. I think she's more charming, intelligent. I think she's just more interesting to play as throughout the game. She, compared to her brother, she completely has way more character in there. Her
Mm.
brother has the whole gang war going on, and she has her own adventure that she's on. But honestly, I just like her a bit more. And it was the first, I'm pretty sure the first female character in Assassin's Creed.
I think it was or well, not technically. I think Liberation had a female one or whatever that game was that was set like it came out like right after Assassin's Creed 3. But it's
uh,
not like a main game. It was like a PlayStation Portable game or something.
right, not like mainline. Yeah, I have
No,
heard of that one. I have heard of that one.
I think it was Liberation.
Yeah, they do have a bunch of like little side
Oh
games.
yeah, they got a ton of them.
So many, so many. But yeah, Evie, I put her at number 8. I think they could have done a better job with her. Maybe because they tried to flesh out two characters as the main
Right.
character with Syndicate. Maybe that is part of the reason why the characters felt so
Oh.
lackluster.
Right, right.
Number
I
8.
this might be a hot take, and I'm probably gonna hear about it, but I put Arno at number 8.
Oh, okay.
Um, Never really liked Arno. I personally never really got into Unity that much. I honestly feel like Unity was the one that really like started to turn me away from Assassin's Creed, and it took a little finagling to get me back into it, but I just really feel like Arno wasn't that good of a protagonist either. Definitely better than the others that were before him. I just never really liked him that much. And that's just a personal thing. I mean, I'm sure there are people that have him as their favorite, and that's understandable. Everybody's got their preferences. I just personally never really liked him. Again, I think it just kind of wasn't as good as what we got before, and that's why I kind of was like, I'm gonna just like shun this a little bit.
Yeah, I
So
get that.
it's a little personal bias, is all.
I'm not too far off with Arno. But I will go with my number 7. Altair. Um,
Hmm.
he is not a very likable guy. Like, just putting it frank, he's not a likable guy. He's a dick. He's arrogant. He's cocky. He's brash, especially in the first game. And I don't know how the developers, I don't know what they intended for him to be, but like the fourth game, as he's older, he's cooler, right? Which is the only reason why I put him a little bit higher. He gets humbled basically. But in the very first game, nah, he's the only reason he even get like if he came out like as the 10th main character in the series, nobody would even remember him. He's not that
Right.
memorable of a character. He's not the one that even is the first character you think of when you think of Assassin's Creed.
Oh, for real.
So he does mature throughout the story, and you see that in Revelations. But they failed to make him very likable in the first game at all.
Okay. I can see that. He was a little obnoxious. That'll take us to my number 7. I actually said Bayek.
Mm,
Again, personal bias coming into play here. Origins was not really a top game for me. I didn't really like the setting that much. I mean, it was a cool setting, like, the pyramids and all that shit, but like, I just never really got into it. I think I was just like stuck in my ways of what I liked before that. And I don't know. This is when I think Assassin's Creed was really starting to like it kind of revived for some people, but for me, I think it's what really put the nail in the coffin to me, like not liking the series anymore. I just don't like it.
yeah,
It's nothing against Bayek. I just never really grew fond of him or like attached because the game was really not like something I looked forward to.
right. Yeah,
So again, these are all just personal opinions, and it is my personal bias coming out with all of them. I definitely have my like top tier characters that I like, and it's just because I think it's mostly just because the games are what really pushed me in the right direction.
right. Yeah. Well, my number 6 is Arno that you touched on a bit earlier. He is one of the more, I would say, troublesome characters in the series. He does have some good traits, but a lot of the time he is a difficult character to like. He has this weird like love interest story going on throughout the story that is kind of different for Assassin's Creed. Um,
Hmm.
And I think honestly, Arno kind of got overshadowed by Unity's like super hard push for like the four-player co-op.
Right.
You know, like they mainly focused on this four-player co-op, and they weren't like, honestly, before I looked up the research I did for this video, I did not even remember Arno's name. I completely forgot his name, and he just kind of like fell in the background of the appeal of Unity, which was the four-player multiplayer. Whereas like in a
Right.
lot of the earlier games, the characters were more of a focal point in character. You know, you do get to see his early life, which is kind of cool. I did think that was pretty nice, but overall, he doesn't really have a lot to carry him.
Offer. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, see, that's really why he's down there for me. It's just not. There's just nothing memorable, you know.
yeah,
Number six, I actually said Evie Fry. Um, I gave
nice.
her a little extra love because out of the two, she was my favorite one for the twins. And I really feel like like if they focused on just her as the playable character, I really feel like the game could have been a lot better. I think Evie was definitely the superior twin out of the two.
Yeah,
And I mean, she was basically the better assassin in my opinion. You know, she didn't let her temper get the better of her. She was a lot more like cool, calm, and collected. You know, she really was like the definition of like the assassins, and I really feel like she fit the theme a lot better. Again, Syndicate was just not that good of a game to me, but she definitely was like the one of the high points of the game because of how she like I guess I would say conducted herself. You know,
yeah, definitely was better than her brother for sure. I would
for
not
sure.
argue that. So number five, top five, I got Shay as my number five. Assassin's
Oh,
Creed
okay.
Rogue, really honestly, gave us a interesting perspective into the Assassin's Creed games. Having a character who, you know, is on the side of the Templars, very different, very different indeed. And attacking assassins is cool in a way. You know, you're hunting down the same thing that you were playing through all of the series. And you know, he does not take very well to being an assassin, and doubts himself and doubts the assassin's unity. And yeah, I think it's just cool. I think that the idea of him being a lone wolf and, you know, leaving his crew and just going on his own adventure is really cool. I don't like Rogue that much, but I do acknowledge that it's a really cool idea for Assassin's Creed, especially like it was only like the fifth game in the series, or sixth, that they decided to go with this idea, and I wish they would have gave it more time instead of splitting up Unity and Rogue like they did. I wish they would have gave this its own year and put it on PS4 and Xbox One, because I think it could have been a lot of fun, actually.
Right. I see. I really feel like that's one of the shames of Rogue. It was such a unique and cool story, and because of the fact that they split the team and focused on two different games at one time and spent all their time, you know, devoted to the next game, it really suffered in the quality department.
Right.
Because I really did like the game. I really did like Rogue a lot, and the idea was like really cool and unique.
It was.
All right, so for my number five, I actually said Altair. I gave Altair a little bit of extra love because he is the air quotes original assassin. You know, like he is that guy. You know, and honestly, I really feel like he's just better than all the other ones I've listed. I mean, like all the other ones had a lot more like air quotes technology to use and stuff like that, and plus we're like getting into the more modern games that can handle a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
But I honestly just feel like Altair was what is like the definition of the assassin. You know, there's a reason that when you go into some of these newer Assassin's Creed games, they have outfits like Altair's outfit.
Yeah, that's true.
It's because he is like the original. And I mean, I gave him a little bit of extra love compared to some of the others just because he is the original, and it was one that I did enjoy playing. But again, like you said, he is kind of dickish.
Yeah,
Like thinking back, he is kind of dickish.
very much so. They kind of retcon that with the fourth game,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
they should have had more redeeming qualities in the first one. like for
Mm-mm.
sure. So yeah, number four for me, I got Connor. I have Connor as my number four.
Okay.
The half Native American assassin, which is a really cool time to do something like that. Being in the
Revolutionary War.
yeah, being in the Revolutionary War, doing it there was the best time to do something like that, and having him be along the ancestral line of all these other characters is also super cool. You know, doing that and being the character that you play as in Assassin's Creed 3. Man, honestly, this guy was a ton of fun to play as. A lot of the time, the Assassin's Creed game overtakes the character. Like, the character doesn't really matter, but I feel like Connor actually mattered in some way,
Mm-hmm.
and I like him. I think he was great, and honestly, out of all of the characters throughout the series, I think he's probably some of the more in-depth characters. I think he's maybe one of, if not the most like in-depth character with like
Oh
backstory
yeah.
and whatnot. And seeing his motives of protecting his people and dealing with the death of his mother was also great to see. It really gave him a lot of depth. And yeah, him dealing with his own identity through um, the American Revolution. Very cool.
I will say one thing I did like once we hit like Assassin's Creed 3, Black Flag, Rogue, and what was the other one? I think that was it actually. Once we hit all them, they all kind of interconnected in some way. You know, like in Rogue, Shay cripples Achilles
Right.
or, fucks up his leg or whatever it is. But then in Black Flag, Edward is Hatham's father,
Right.
and then Connor is his grandson. It was just cool to have all these three games like connected in some way.
Yeah.
Because they are all in the same area, so it is cool that they went through and they did that.
Yeah, and they never did anything like that again. Nothing to that
No,
extent. And like I like Connor, he's gentle and he did have the very tough act of following Assassin's Creed 2, 3, and 4. Which is very like, that's not an easy thing to follow, especially with the
right?
characters in that game. But nonetheless, I think he did have more positive traits than
Oh yeah.
most.
Compared to the others we've done, yeah.
And just a very
Um.
unique character too.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's somebody really came up with a great idea for him. One other cool thing is that you play as his dad. You play as Hatham
Right.
when you first start. I mean, that's pretty neat because you think that he's going to be the one, and then you find out he's a Templar.
Yeah,
Pretty
that's
cool.
true. That is true.
My number four actually was Shay Cormac. You
Yeah.
know, I really liked Shay as a character. I do think it was cool that he questioned all the issues with the assassins. Because really, if you think about it, up to this point, you're just slaughtering everybody. Like they're
Hmm.
like, and some of them really aren't even like shown doing anything. You just come in and just kill them. So how do you really know who the good and bad guys are when you really dive into the games?
Yeah.
Like we say they're bad. Okay, they say they're bad, so kill them. Maybe we're the bad guys. I don't know. We're the ones that slaughter hundreds of guards and everything to get to these people. But yeah, I really do think that if the game was fleshed out more, like if they actually went through and they developed it solely on its own, this game could have probably been one of the best ones. But instead, it's in that weird like um just
Yeah.
weird like time loop, of like here we're working on two at the same time, and this one's for last gen and this one's for next gen at the time because I think it was PS3 and
Yeah.
PS4. But it was just such a weird thing to do. Like just make the same game for both. I don't
Right.
know. I honestly feel like he could have been really fleshed out as a better character, but I still did like him a lot.
Yeah, I
You know,
definitely think he could have
it
been
was
better
cool.
too.
He was the only one to question it.
They
You
should do
know,
it again.
they
Like,
should.
because Rogue didn't get enough clout. It didn't get enough
No.
like anything.
I
So
mean, it must have because they did end up remastering it, but like
yeah.
again, like you only had one person go against them.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure there were plenty that defected in all the other stories.
Right. So number three, top three, I got Edward as my number three, Edward Kenway.
Oh,
He has a very good story, and I think you know, I didn't like Black Flag at first because of the more pirate theme, but I think if you're gonna do a pirate themed Assassin's Creed, this character Edward had the perfect pirate personality. He was charming, funny, likable, and he has a really like good story. Redeeming himself. Like not many Assassin's Creed characters, most Assassin's Creed characters fall apart in their story, right? Edward
Right.
is a story of like redemption, along the lines of Zuko. And it's not as good of a story as Zuko, but to each their own. This is about as good as Assassin's Creed can do within a redemption story. Um, and yeah, I think that his story was good. I think that there was nothing wrong with Edward as a story. Black Flag isn't my favorite game, but I think that it worked with him as the main character. If you put most of the other main characters in this story with their personalities, I don't think it would work for Black Flag. And I like that he wanted to be a pirate. I like that he wanted to be rich. I like that he wanted to have power and build up and be this like infamous pirate. And I think it was a good character.
All right, I'll touch on that more in a minute. My number three, I actually said Connor.
Mm,
I really liked Connor. I really thought it was a cool direction to go, and like I said, it was cool to have all this stuff interconnected. I mean, granted, we didn't. I think, yeah, Black Flag and Rogue came out after three, but it was still cool that they tied it all in together.
of course.
And it was really neat, the newer stuff that we could do, like you could hang the people from the ropes and all that stuff, you could climb through the trees. It was really cool to see that, and it was a nice explanation for it not being in the other games because he was a Native American. Like it was really cool that they incorporated that into the game. I did really like Connor. I love the story. I love the revolutionary time period. I think it was very adventurous to
Hmm.
go there, but it actually paid off beautifully. It did pay off very well.
Definitely agree there. Our lists have been pretty similar. Like a lot of the characters are in the same range,
Right.
just different exact numbers. But here's a big differing one. My number two is Bayak. I
Yeah. Figured.
absolutely love Bayak. I think he's probably the most badass assassin in the game. Losing his son really triggered this amazing thing. And honestly, I know we've talked about how bad a lot of the female leads have been, and I know this isn't Bayak himself, but I think that his wife is a G in herself. Aya was fantastic. The first like love interest that was actually good and could carry their own and kill and do their own thing. Um, Bayak's main role is to protect his people, and man, when he goes on his revenge story of pursuing his son's killers, it sets off this whole thing. And I know there were a lot of side quests in this game, but if you just look at it from a just character standpoint, he's a fantastic character that I definitely was able to connect with. And just going through Egypt as him, a lot of the time the character's tied to the game, right? So like if you like the game, you're gonna like the character probably. And so that happens with me here as Origins is definitely my favorite, and I liked Bayak as a father, as a husband, and I like Bayak of I can't say it. Bayak of Sigua.
Hmm.
Bayak of Siwa. I hope I'm saying that right. Comments, please drill me if I'm not saying that right. I promise I played this game. I promise I played this game. It was just a long time ago, so I don't remember. But yeah, he's definitely great, and him being in this Egyptian period, a lot of fun, and forming the hidden ones would be a big part of Assassin's Creed to go forward. And it was kind of cool that you could find his mummified body in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which kind of sucks in itself knowing that he died. But yeah, he would have been dead by then. So, and also his eagle, man, his eagle was cool. His eagle was cool. No one else had a companion like. Well, that was the first time that they introduced a companion, and you could get like the eagle eye view, and that was a lot of fun too. And I
Hmm.
like the bird, and yeah, I like Assassin's Creed Origins, so I like Bayak.
So that's gonna take us to my number two, which I actually said Edward.
Mm,
I really liked Edward. I like how you started out the game and I think it was like you were shipwrecked or something, or somehow you meet an assassin and you end up killing him and you take his glove and stuff and you basically assume the role of an assassin. Like he's not a real assassin. He just plays one, and here he ends up just doing whatever he wants. It was really cool to go that route, because he could have just been. They could have just made him an assassin who was already a pirate. But the fact that we like saw him pick up the gauntlet with the hidden
Right.
blade and everything, and just become an assassin without really like doing anything, that was pretty neat. And then, like I said, like he wasn't really an assassin. He just wanted money and power.
Yeah.
So it was pretty cool to see like him just doing these missions pretending to be an assassin, just working his way through until I think they ended up noticing that he wasn't a real assassin or whatever. But like when you're starting out the game and you're just doing them and like you're pretending to be the assassin, it's pretty cool. I did really like him, and I honestly think he really did have like that spark of charisma that we hadn't seen since a certain other character that we're gonna get into because I know he's both of our top characters.
Yeah.
Um, but we hadn't seen that since him, and I honestly think that he was a close second. I almost did switch them up, but
Mm.
I mean, let's be honest here. The guy that's at number one has 3 games.
He does have 3 games.
You can't get much of a better character than that. If you know you can work a guy for 3 games, you know he's a good character.
Yeah, Ezio, number
Yeah.
one. What more is there to say about Ezio? We know how great he is. As a young man, he was very charming, right? You get to see that charm explored, and there is a certain sense of attachment that would just not allow me to put him anywhere else than number one. The nostalgia of Ezio and being in the theme and setting that he was in created a fantastic character, and you know when he was blinded by rage, he was a naive kid in the beginning, and you really saw him mature throughout,
Oh
like,
yeah.
the entire story, all the way to his death. Like, there was so much there, and, he was very flirtatious, and the complete opposite of Altair, like, very, very opposite of Altair, and, I love seeing Ezio mature throughout the story.
See, I agree. I mean, he really is like the perfect main character. I mean, he has done everything and anything, and his time period was perfect. Like I think everything about Ezio's whole like setup was perfect. I mean, he was a great character, great weapons and all that, great story behind him. I loved him. He's my favorite character by far, and there's no Edward comes close, but I mean he still couldn't touch him.
Right. Yeah, completely agree. Completely agree. Even though like Ezio's games isn't my favorite all time game, but I still think his character was the best through all of it. And like the way he passed away was pretty insane, not gonna lie. Seeing him go out that way was kind of crazy. And I
Hmm.
mean, you never saw like I don't know, man. It just no death ever hit the same like Ezio's death. Ezio is number one.
Easily too. I mean, he really is a perfect character.
But that is our video. If you guys liked and enjoyed, let us know, and we'll see you next time.